Galileo Galilei, remembered as the father of modern science. For centuries, history told us he was condemned by the church for saying that the earth moves around the sun. But the truth is far more complex. The Inquisition documents reveal a story that is rarely told. Galileo was not punished for science, but for his daring interpretation of Scripture. In 17th century Italy, the Renaissance was in full bloom. Art, philosophy, and science flourished alongside deeply rooted religious traditions. Galileo, a brilliant mathematician and astronomer, used his telescope to explore the heavens, observing moons, planets, and the patterns of the cosmos. His discoveries challenged old beliefs, but it was not these observations that ultimately brought him into conflict with the church. The controversy centered on a passage from the book of Joshua in the Hebrew Bible. In Joshua 10:12-14, God is said to have stopped the sun to allow the Israelites to win a battle. The church read this passage literally, believing that the heavens moved around the earth as described in Scripture. Galileo, however, argued that the Bible was not intended as a scientific textbook, but as a guide for spiritual salvation. He suggested that passages like this should be interpreted metaphorically, describing how events appear to human observers, not as literal astronomical fact. This stance, radical for the time, directly challenged the authority of church leaders. They feared that allowing individuals to interpret Scripture freely would undermine their doctrinal control, especially during the turbulent period of the Counter-Reformation. It was not Galileo's scientific ideas that provoked their anger, but his theological reasoning, his audacity to interpret sacred texts for himself. In 1633, Galileo was summoned to stand trial before the Roman Inquisition. Documents from that trial show that he was found vehemently suspected of heresy. He was forced to recant his interpretations and sentenced to house arrest. While the popular story framed this as a suppression of science, the records make clear that the church's concern was authority and the preservation of doctrinal orthodoxy. Galileo's courage was not in defying the cosmos, but in defending the right to question interpretations of sacred texts. Though silenced in his lifetime, his ideas endured. Science continued to advance, knowledge expanded, and centuries later, the courage of Galileo reminds us that inquiry, both scientific and philosophical, cannot be constrained forever. And yet the earth moves. The sun rises. Truth in time prevails. And like and share this video.